All right, welcome to SV4u podcast, Freedom to Learn. Today we have one of our excellent students from our academy, Adam Blumenfeld, and I hope I got the name right. And so we are going to just chat with him, and I just basically to understand for our viewers his experience getting in technology at very young age, and he thrived on that, and he learned quite a few things. And in fact, he was working on certain projects when he was in middle school. And so we are going to talk about all that today. So welcome, Adam.
Yeah.
All righty. So just I asked this to everybody. So just tell viewers about yourself and what brings you to learning coding in the first place.
Yeah. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Adam. I originally got into technology, like started just in the general technology area when I was really young, like 5, 6, 7, and then playing around with the computer a lot, spending a lot of time with the computer. And then when I was 8 years old, I started exploring, dabbling around in coding. Eventually, when I started middle school in 6th grade, uh, I I attended a summer class, summer camp, whatever it was. Yeah, it was like a camp, 2-week camp, and in the summer of 5th grade, I believe. And then I enjoyed it, so I started doing classes. What brings me to coding is the idea that you can make a really big impact without a lot of resources. Of course, you have a basic resources you need, like a computer and basic technology equipment, but the amount of impact that you can make is really large compared to the physical resources that you need for software.
Yeah, that sounds good. So just to clarify, viewers, that camps you attended were conducted by Siliconvalley4u, right?
Yes,
So I think,
Siliconvalley4u. All my formal computer science stuff was all in Siliconvalley4u.
yeah, I remember that. I think I remember you coming into one of those conference rooms where we conducted camps, I think very early on. So yeah, so I think you made a good point. So one thing about internet slash tech is you rightfully said all you need is a computer, and you can make huge difference. Um, you know, hopefully on positively saying,
Yeah.
and so it is a very, very powerful tool out there in the world today. So with that said, and so tell me a little bit more about other things you do besides technology and also the academics, that the school work you have to do. What are your hobbies? I know you're into music and maybe other things. Just talk about it.
Yeah. So besides technology, I also play like saxophone. I used to play guitar heavily, but I'm in marching bands. I'm incoming section leader for next year, so of course I've been doing a lot of prep work over the summer for that. In general, it's quite a contrasting area to my typical technology stuff because it's more open-ended, more like more memorization, more of practice. So it's a very nice contrasting area. So, after coding for a few hours, it's always good to have something to take a break with.
Yeah.
So yeah, music, band, jazz band stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic. So for those, I mean, this is my passion. Typically, I want people to understand the learning methods in the traditional education, I call it, in schools. So for instance, there's a course, there's a curriculum, there is a semester, whatever. I mean, I guess you don't have semesters, but you know what I mean. So there is a stipulated time, and you have to prepare for exam, you have to get the grade, and then you just keep going, right? So there is a learning method. And then there is a learning method with that comes with software or tech rather, and then
Yeah.
creating things. Can you, in your mind as a student, how do you compare these two?
Yeah. So the learning method in traditional academic setting is very you have certain like targets you have to hit, and those targets for you, you're enforced. Your learning is evaluated through exams, and you have to prepare for those exams, and then you get graded heavily. And there's a very um, it's a very big pressure that comes with those exams. So when you're in technology, usually, you know, you work on things, you build stuff, you build towards goals, you explore a big landscape of technology. Like I may like explore AI a little bit, go into quantum computing, and then eventually figure out I want to focus on AI. Versus in school, you're kind of getting this general education, some foundational knowledge, some general civil knowledge that you need. Though, of course, in general education, I do have, obviously, I feel like it could be done better, especially with the pressure on grades, um, like evaluations reflecting how how uh, how well you look to colleges in the future, and generally how people will look at you based off of your academic performance. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So one other thing I like to get your opinion is the continuity. For instance, I can speak for myself. There are, like as you said, there's a tremendous pressure build up, up until you write the exam. Right after exam, you're so relieved that you don't want to
Yeah,
think about it.
knowledge goes away.
Not only that, you just don't want to think about that subject,
Yeah,
certain subject, not all of, actually most of them. And then there is that, and then boom, until next exam, if you need to prepare for that. Otherwise, just forget about it because I have to worry about something else right
exactly.
now. Whereas with I call it continuous learning with the tech. When I say tech, not necessarily software alone, you are also bringing in other things, right? Whether it's biology or math or sports or music or whatever, you can bring anything into technology, right? It doesn't
Yes.
have to be a purely technology. There is a continuity, in other words, you do something. Let's say you create, for instance, you did the WhatsApp analytics. So now you can take that work and then you can improvise on that. So you can reuse that somewhere else, or you can use that knowledge, or you can use that literally same code, and then build something else altogether. So you don't try to forget about it back. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
so do you feel that way? Because I know how I felt. I still remember. That's see
Yeah.
now you understand the amount of pressure I
Yeah.
had. So
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely computer science. Computer science. I always feel that continuity, especially throughout, because in Silicon Valley for you is very project based. So even after I departed from Silicon Valley for you, I'm still doing projects. I'm starting a computer science organization, um, collection of computer science laboratories, and that continuity is always there. Any knowledge that I learn in one area of tech, you can apply to other areas of tech and even outside of technology. Versus in academics, it's that really big pressure. From one exam to the next exam, you're just trying to basically cram a bunch of stuff in order to get the grade. So it's a lot of memorization rather than actually learning. Versus in technology, it's a lot more learning rather than memorization, I'd
right.
say. Like the best classes I've ever taken in school that are in the academic setting were the classes that had the least amount of examinations. Like
Yeah.
like my world geography teacher, we didn't have a single test for the whole year. It was all project based. It was all like all these all assignment based, and it was a lot. I learned a lot more from that class than I did for a lot of other classes that were more focused on examinations.
Yeah. That so it, That's fantastic. So so let's switch gears a little bit before we get into the other topics. Why don't you talk about the organization you launched? To is this part of your school or is it outside or how is that?
Yeah, so the organization that I'm currently launching, it's called CS6 Labs, Computer Science Exploration Laboratories, and it's a collection of exploratory laboratories that are dedicated to exploring and contributing to emerging areas of software in an open way. So right now it's outside of school, but we are doing like trying to get into projects at our school. But in general, we're just trying to explore new areas. So right now we're in California, and we have a few people in Texas. And within a couple of years, we're training people in other states like Idaho, and we're trying to expand. But in general, the idea is to try to get into try to explore these emerging areas of technology like quantum computing, blockchain, IoT, all these areas that have potential for trillions of dollars in market share, and try to make foundational open source projects in those areas.
Fantastic. So now let's switch gears, right? So what are your plans for college and then beyond college? Have you thought about it? If yes, you can share some details.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that quite a bit. College is kind of put on our radar in middle school on current system. So my plans is generally I want to my general mission is to make a really big impact on humanity with technology, because that's my passion. So I've explored like college curriculums. I've taken some midterms, just trying to feel out what the college curriculum is like. Most likely, I want to get into good college, network with a lot of really smart people, kind of like how I'm trying to do in my current organization, and just kind of gain that experience with working with these other smart people, so we can build a rapport, and then eventually start off our own organizations from that, and startups and stuff.
That's fantastic. So as I said, so just so you know, a tiny bit detail is that as you are doing right already, there are many ways to build clubs and being part of alumni. I mean, obviously, being part of the college is the traditional way of doing it for hundreds of years. I don't think that route is the only route, in the recent past. So things change quite a bit. And in other words, if for instance, Siliconvalley4u, the kind of so community we built organically is a lot more effective than you being inserted into a community already exists. In other words, that's maybe 80% of them don't even know. For instance, if you go to a certain college community, you probably know 20 guys or maybe 50 guys, and there are thousands of guys don't even know. They do appreciate that, hey, you're, it's my college alumni, but you don't know them. So, and vice versa. They don't know you either. You don't know them either. So even though you got a connection through that alumni, you still have to start all over. Whereas if you build a community organically, there is a connection right from the get-go. Although you don't know directly, but they know who you are, and they know of you, or there is some indirect link and things like that. So, and also there is a context already established. Things like that. So anyway, in other words, what I'm trying to say is that being in college is a option, not the option anymore.
Yeah. To add on to that, that's a very big part, because if you look at the most successful like startups, like you look at the Googles of the world, the newer startups, the Stripes of the world, right? All those startups, the founders knew each other for a while, and they were working on practical projects with the founders, and really gaining experience with the first person in the organization, because the people that are in the organization, hiring is the most important thing you'll do, is a quote from How Google Works. And like, so when you're in college, right, of course, it's nice to be in that environment with a community because there's a lot of smart people, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't really connect and work with people on practical projects.
That's correct.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few examples. Google is definitely one of the top ones, and there are quite a few examples where at least 2 or 3 founders got together and built a lot of companies. And as I said before, they not necessarily have to be on the same campus, and
Exactly.
that's the case. And then more so, as things are evolving, for all you know, who knows by the time you guys get there, if there is a lot of hybrid model / virtual campus is scattered all over the world, although you are on the same campus, but you're not on the campus. It can happen. So anyway, definitely being in a college, the definition that the experience is changing as we speak. So with that said, so tell me a little bit about your association with Siliconvalley4u. You've been with the Siliconvalley4u for how long? Like 4 years, 5 years?
I lost track.
Me too.
Yeah, since I'm going into 10th grade now. I started in 6th grade, so
Okay.
I don't know. But I started like the full classes with Siliconvalley4u in 6th grade with Akil. And I was really grateful to start those classes with Akil, because what he did, it was a very non-traditional model. First, he was like this guy fresh out of college, and he started me off by getting something working, right? Kind of seeing what's out there and kind of getting that experience of like getting that feeling of building something. And then we went really fast through a lot of areas. Like I explored artificial intelligence, right? And those classes were very instrumental in getting that passion for computer science and software engineering as a whole. Yeah, the instructors, all of them were. One thing I like was a lot of really young instructors. Like Akil was fresh out of college. I believe you interviewed Max. Yep. He was also really good. So it's great to kind of like, they kind of show you what they're working on, and you can kind of get a lot of inspiration from that.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we also we're glad to have you. You're one of the long-standing and very enthusiastic and students we had for a long time. So last thing I'm going to ask a little bit more on the technical side. So what do you need? What piece of tech do you need in your life that doesn't exist today?
Yeah, so that's actually a question that my organization always also is consistently trying to find. So one piece of technology, software, that we definitely have been exploring that would be really useful is an integrated, so basically when you're a coder, you have these development environments that have like how you edit your code. Those things are called IDEs. And how you edit your code, how you run your code and all that stuff. So a lot of things are moving online because these code bases are so big and such a huge scale, and many companies implemented private online solutions for their online IDEs, like Google with Cider, and Facebook has their own. But there's been more recently an open source movement of that, like with GitHub code spaces and stuff like that, for online IDs. So basically, to get to the point, inexpensive and enterprise ready open source online IDEs.
So that can bring in anything from anywhere. So click on the click of the button, right? So
Yeah.
Eclipse sort of supposed to be doing that. I believe
Yeah,
they.
Eclipse has like Eclipse Thea and stuff like that. And AWS has Cloud9. There's a lot of them. Uh, but it's just general. It's kind of there's a lot of them being developed. But it's just something that's kind of really easy to set up on your and host on your own. Like
Yeah,
it's
got
kind
it.
of yeah. So um, like there's a lot of open source projects that allow you to do that, but there's it's not as streamlined as something like like it's not as streamlined as other cloud services. So
Yeah, I know where you're going with all this. I mean, I think it's a vast subject by itself. Maybe we need
yeah.
another podcast just for that. Uh,
Yeah,
I can what I can envision is certain things. For instance, right now we are doing a project. For that, you need I just downloaded. You need version of blah blah. So for instance, for instance, I got the README. I need pandas 1.42, NumPy 122.4, pandas blah blah. So in other words, you need packages on top of all these libraries. So this package is a one set that potentially I can use and compile my piece of code and then launch. And then that package has to stay intact. And then when I port this onto some other cloud or some other server, I should be able to just take that package and use it rather than
exactly.
right now, for instance, right, we have to install this 20 of them and then compile, and God knows what happens after all that, right? It's non-trivial portable effort, so porting effort rather. Sorry. So that's just one side of things. There are millions of problems. I mean, like that. But I see where you're going. So thank you very much. So this is very interesting and also introductory, as I said before. So we are going to have series of these podcasts in the future podcast with you. So we are going to take maybe one piece of either a project or a concept, and then we'll
Okay.
drill down into it, and then we'll set that up in the near future, and then we'll talk to you, and then thanks again for taking
Yep.
time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk
Okay,
to you soon. Thank you.
already.